Massive update for XRP investors. XRP supply on exchanges is down 45% in just 60 days. And during today's episode, we're going to highlight how the supply shock we've been anticipating from the ETFs being issued inside the United States is officially underway. Now, this isn't just my opinion. This is the opinion of Jake Claver, Paul Barron, and of course, our friend MICKLE, who have all went on to highlight that XRP's supply on exchanges is rapidly diminishing as we speak. Over the past week or so since ETFs went live, we watched Binance depletion of XRP go from about 3 billion units to less than 2.6 billion units in only a couple of weeks. And with this XRP supply being rapidly diminished from the largest exchanges on the planet, we're going to highlight how the XRP price chart could finally be headed towards the breakout that we've been predicting here in 2025. Hello and welcome back to another episode of Good Evening Crypto, your favorite crypto news related channel. If you enjoy this content, smash that like button and subscribe, as you're going to get an update every single day, 5:30 p.m. Eastern time. And I do want to give a special thank you, as you guys have helped us pass 2,000 likes on 4 videos in a row. So shout out to you all, the best community in all of crypto. And we're going to continue providing what I believe to be the most important information in all of crypto, starting with this data right here. XRP supply on exchanges has dropped 45% in 60 days. This is fresh data from Glassnode showing a major supply shift is happening as we speak. Now, on September 21st, 2025, supply on exchanges was over 3.95 billion units of XRP. And in the past 60 days, we are down 45%, reaching just 2.6 billion units on November 27th. Exchange balances have fallen by more than 45% during this time. And I think it's no coincidence that the XRP ETFs were launched in this exact same time frame. Now, what's even more interesting about this correlation is that when we look at how much XRP has been purchased and driven into the XRP ETFs here through these 4 spot products alone, in Canary, Franklin Templeton, Bitwise, and Grayscale, we have over $640 million worth of XRP in assets under management. Now, that's great because it's removing this XRP not only from OTC desks, but from exchanges all around the world. And that's where our friend Jake Claver went on to highlight that this is the moment we've all been waiting for.
I think all of you are going to be very surprised in the very near future about what XRP does now that we have the ETFs eating through the OTC desk and the dark pool volume. There's not a whole lot left over there. My guess was there was somewhere between 1 billion and maybe up to 2 billion available on the OTC and dark pools. They've already eaten through about 800 million XRP here in just the first week from that. So that's either half or almost all of what was available on the OTC desk and the dark pools. As soon as that is gone, and we're getting more ETFs, more spot ETFs for XRP are launching, and we still don't have the big dogs at the table yet. We still don't have BlackRock, and we still don't have Vanguard. We still don't have Fidelity. I think they're all coming to the table in the very near future with their spot ETFs for XRP. So that would put, if those 3 came online, we would have more spot ETFs than Bitcoin.
And this is the supply shock moment we've been waiting for, guys, with the biggest companies on the planet officially launching their XRP ETFs inside the United States. We can now point to these companies and look at the demand for these products. We've seen $640 million worth of demand from these 4 spot ETF issuers alone. And there are some huge companies still sitting on the sidelines, not just BlackRock and Fidelity and Van Eyck, the companies that are yet to file, but even companies that have already filed XRP ETFs have hundreds of billions of dollars worth in assets under management. Now, starting off this list is Wisdom Tree with $113 billion in assets under management. They filed for a spot XRP ETF. We also have 21 shares in $7 billion in assets under management. Their product is scheduled to go live next week. We also have Hashdex, $1 billion, Pro Shares, $70 billion, Coin Shares, $5 billion in assets under management, and Volatility Shares, another $5 billion in assets under management, and they've already filed for an XRP ETF. But why is this relevant for the XRP community? Because going forward, the largest institutions in America have a mutual incentive, just like the XRP community, to watch this asset increase in price. And with XRP reserves on exchanges, not just Binance, but globally, rapidly diminishing before our very eyes, it is very likely that after 3 to 6 months of these ETFs being launched, the OTC desks will be dry. The exchanges will be running low, and we could see some major price appreciation for our favorite digital asset in XRP. If you're enjoying this content, smash that like button. Let me know some of your thoughts underneath the video. And these are the articles that I believe to be most important, because now that these ETFs are live, big money finally gets exposure to XRP. But we also have to keep an eye on the narrative that Ripple has filed for a national banking charter. And what does this mean? Ripple is looking to operate just like how a traditional bank would inside the United States, and they're sitting on 40 billion units of XRP. That means we could be looking at Ripple becoming a national bank and potentially locking up the escrow and removing additional XRP from the circulating supply. This is a whole nother layer of the supply shock narrative that I don't believe is being covered. Let's listen to Sal Gilberti break this down, and then we'll talk about it.
It's been around for a long time. So you've seen these market cycles ebb and flow, and now we're in one where digital assets are now finally kind of growing up and making their way to Wall Street and their trek to Washington and all of that. You say it's a nascent market. How big could this be?
I think that crypto can be bigger than anyone imagines, because the people who focus on cap table and say there's not enough money to make these cap tables that big, that's not true, because it's got nothing to do with the amount of money. I mean, it does have to do with the amount of money, but not all of the crypto is going to be out there trading. So the cap table, it's like an AI company being worth, $500 billion. It's because there are only a limited number of shares that actually trade on it. And so that's how it's going to work with crypto. People are going to buy it and hold it and store it. What's Ripple going to do with its 40 billion XRP? Given that they filed to be a bank, there's one of the leading theories that they just hold that on their balance sheet. They get their banking license and they become a top 20 capitalized bank in the world. That's with XRP at $3. XRP goes to, some multiple of $3. They become a top 10 bank or even the top bank in terms of capitalization. That's pretty astounding.
That would be insanely astounding. And I think a lot of people are sleeping on that idea.
So factoring in all these different narratives and the rapidly diminishing supply of XRP, it's clear to see that there's not enough XRP out there for everybody to have the amount that they'd need. Whether it's an ETF issuer, a bank, or a financial institution, or just people like ourselves who are waiting to buy this asset at lower prices and hold it for the long term, there is only a few billion units of XRP that are liquid on American exchanges and in the OTC market today. And with these ETFs going live and over $640 million worth of XRP ETFs being purchased in just 8 days, it is very clear to me that the supply shock we've been anticipating has been kicked off. But the real question is, when does XRP decouple from Bitcoin? We're going to break down this brand new video out of Paul Barron and MICKLE discussing how XRP has already began its decoupling moment from Bitcoin and potentially the rest of the crypto market.
There's obviously with the number of ETFs that have landed just in the last, 10 days, I guess, it feels like it's just a barrage of ETFs. We launched with Canary, Bitwise right on its heels, Franklin Templeton, Grayscale, all coming in, piling in terms of revenue, and seemed to be everybody kind of thought it was going to be a bad time, even though Canary opened on a down day on the market, but still ended up breaking all records. Can you imagine what that would have done on an up day?
No, yeah, that. And then one of the things you did notice is even though the market was going down, you did start to see XRP really ticking up against its Bitcoin comparative. So the XRP to Bitcoin chart looked really well. And the other thing I was pointing out to people is normally when Bitcoin drops, like it has been, you normally see XRP dropping at about a 1.5 to 2x faster rate. And you really didn't see that. You actually saw XRP outperforming. So I know a lot of people wanted that vertical line upwards, but I think it was actually really important in terms of holding that $2 support, which we're bouncing pretty strongly off right now.
Well, and that's the thing, because this is one of those things that when you compare XRP with other assets, and I think Bitcoin is the perfect example to the point you just made, is when Bitcoin does see market movement, the correlation to most altcoins is almost immediate. And in many cases, it takes a severe reaction into anything that's outside the top 10. Do you think that XRP has detached from the Bitcoin model in terms of price comparison?
Yeah, I don't know if it's fully detached quite yet. I think if you did see a huge sell-off in the Bitcoin market, you'd probably see that funnel through the entire crypto ecosystem. But ever since the early part of, or the late part of 2024, early part of 2025, you really have seen XRP decoupling from the entire market. So I think what you likely have is you have the entire market kind of trading in lockstep during those normal noisy fluctuations where we're up 5%, down 5%. That sort of thing seems to work on the entire market. But then you obviously have XRP making these more large macro moves that it seems to be doing on its own. So in a very similar way to how you see the S&P 500, where on no news days, the market sort of just trades up and down with the relative volatility of each specific company. I think you're going to continue to see that in the crypto market for a long time, but I think we are starting to see the market differentiate different places of value. And just looking at XRP's chart against most of the major cryptocurrencies, we can see that XRP has been vastly outperforming and really decoupling from the rest of the market. So I don't think it's ever going to be on every single day. Everything is moving completely independently because we don't even have that in the traditional market. But it does seem to really be holding its own in terms of its own fundamentals and having its own price chart and movements associated with it.
Yeah. And I very much agree with this thesis, guys, because I've been covering the XRP Bitcoin pairing for a very long time here on the Good Evening Crypto channel. And this is one of those price charts that looks like it's ready for a major move. If we see XRP break out in the Bitcoin pairing, that would mean that the XRP price chart is moving up and to the right, while the Bitcoin price chart is trading sideways or down. And as that continues to rise, we're also going to see market dominance for XRP rise. And here's the substantial factor that we've never had before. With the Genius Act being passed and stablecoins becoming ubiquitous with the American economy, we're also watching the XRP ledger become a hub for financial transactions. You factor that in with the U.S. banking license that Ripple has filed for, the Clarity Act on the precipice of being passed probably in Q1 2026, and the ETFs having already absorbed $640 million worth of inflows in just 8 days. I'm beginning to see the supply shock that we've been outlining for a very long time here on the horizon. And hopefully our listeners have the patience to hang in there until this plays out. If you enjoyed this content, smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you all in the next one. So if you're looking to implement the same strategies that we do here on Good Evening Crypto, I would encourage all of our listeners to click on the Merlin link below and sign up for ITrust Capital as well. Now, why are our listeners going to do this? By leveraging the Merlin application, you can create a profit plan for yourself so you know exactly where you're going to be exiting this market. But leveraging iTrust through a Roth IRA product, you can take advantage of tax-free crypto gains during this crypto bull market. So I would encourage everybody, click on the link down below, sign up for iTrust today, and take advantage of our $100 free sign-up bonus.